Radcliff City Council Forum. This forum is co-hosted by the Hardin County branch of the NAACP, and we welcome you to get to meet some of the candidates. These candidates are ones who responded to our request. At least one refused to participate. Some had prior engagements, including one who had to cancel as soon as I arrived to the building. But she had told me beforehand that she would not make it. I encourage you to talk to each of the candidates that you do not see up here and inquire of them why they did not participate. The candidates will be given questions by me, the moderator. I am Lacey Rice Jr., a member of the Greater Hardin County Women's Network, and all of you are welcome to join us. But I will be your moderator, and we do have a timekeeper who will alert the candidates as to how much time they have to speak. Immediately after this, we will also have a presentation by the Kentucky chapter of the NAACP, presented by Secretary Donna Smalls, talking about Amendments 1 and 2. And so you are welcome to stay for that discussion as well. So with that being said, I will soon take my place. We ask that you please be courteous to the candidates. Please do not cheer, do not clap or anything like that. This is not the Democrat and Republican presidential debates. Okay? I mean, we're going to be close because they don't have audiences this year. So we do want to be courteous to all of the candidates here. Please do not interrupt them. And we just hope that you enjoy this forum. So thank you very much for attending. Okay, the candidates will be answering questions on a rotating basis. That is, the first person to answer will be different each time. And it will go from your left to your right for the candidates. Okay? Please make sure that you speak up so that we can record everything, because this will also be on our Facebook and YouTube pages. So let's get started. First, we will give each candidate 1 minute to introduce him or herself. And we will start with Mr. Kim Thompson.
Okay, hi, I'm Kim Thompson, the only Kim on the ballot. I think I say that every time. I've lived in this community off and on with the military, but permanently since 1998. I've served the community ever since I've lived here. I started out on the court enforcement as deputy chairman for the court enforcement board. Once that board had shut down for a little bit, I was asked to continue on, and I was signed up for the planning and zoning board, which I spent about 10 years off and on chairman, sometimes not chairman. And then I got a little curious about city council, and so I came to some city council meetings and tried to figure out what was going on, and got really interested, just that much more in the community, working in the community, and I ran for city council and I got elected. I was very fortunate. So as far as a permanent resident of Radcliff, I moved into Radcliff off of Fort Knox in September 1998. I've been a resident, lived in the same home since. I've been a member of the community, serving the community. I've done a series of things for the community, help out, volunteer, also serving in, like I said, planning and zoning, code enforcement, city council. And I would like to vote again to continue serving at least another term.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Thompson. And now we will have Terry Owens.
Good evening, everybody. I am Lieutenant Colonel retired Terry Owens. I've been a resident of Radcliff City since 2007, on and off, as an Army officer. I became a permanent resident in 2017 of September. Since that time, I have served on your Red Cross Disaster Action Team. I cover 22 counties that go down to Warren County, Bowling Green, back up to Jefferson and Louisville. So if there's a fire, if there is a lost and need to be found, if there is a drowning somewhere, most likely my team of 6 volunteers and 1 physician is in support of our first responders. I also am a half owner of a small business called Tabletop Cuisine. We just hit our 7th year of catering in this area and Bowling Green, and a couple of opportunities in Louisville. We tailor our menus to what you like and what your budget does. There's nothing too small or too big. I became a member of the Radcliff City Council for the first time in 2020. You re-elected me in 22, and hopefully you will re-elect me in 24. I've been married 38 years to my high school sweetheart, which I've drug around in the military for 30 years. And we had just enough time to make one youngin' who got all of her education here in the state of Kentucky, to include her undergrad and grad in Western Kentucky, because I see a little talker back there. So I am a member of New Hope Missionary Baptist Church, but you may see me at other churches because I like to see what's going on. I don't like to be pigeonholed to know what's going on in other communities. So I enjoy serving you in all sorts of capacities. Finally, I am the Director of Community Outreach at the Patton Museum, so you will see me there. So thank you.
Okay, I will remind the candidates to pay attention to the timekeeper. She will alert you when to stop. Next, we have Michelle Mitchell.
Hi, as he said, my name is Michelle Mitchell. I am up for re-election for the Radcliff City Council, and this would be going into a 2nd term with the council. I am a mom of 6, and I am also a daughter of a soldier, former wife of a soldier, and my children also served as well. So very heavily involved with that part of the military. I am also a business owner. I have served in this community for 27 years, providing a lot of community outreaches, involved in the community, doing that type of work. That's a passion of mine. And I also serve on several boards. I'm with the Habitat for Humanity. I'm also with the Radcliff Small Business Alliance, and I'm also a part of the Hardin County Children's Business Fair, programs that is provided for children in our area that have businesses and that they would like to curate. And I would love your vote come November 5th.
Thank you. Next, we have Serenity Johnson.
Good evening, y'all. My name is Serenity Johnson, and I am one of your candidates this year for Radcliff City Council. I'm number 6 on the ballot. I'll start by saying I wasn't born in Kentucky, but I did get here as fast as I could. Lived in Hardin and Meade counties for about the past 15 years now, so this area is important to me. It's a place I call home. I actually work in retail. During COVID, I worked overtime to unload trucks and stock grocery store shelves. And as we started coming out of kind of the pandemic phase of that, civic engagement is important to me, and a friend of mine knew that, and so she encouraged me to actually start attending my city council meetings. And I think that was when I really started to learn how accessible our local government is to us. And eventually I took that a step further and filed to run for office. I am the only new name on the ballot this year. Everybody else ran in 2022, and as a new candidate and as a future city council member, hopefully, I understand that I have a lot to learn, but I believe in learning everything I can and taking what I learned from the other candidates and city council members and passing it on to future candidates and city council members. And so I hope that after this, you will consider using one of your votes for me, Serenity Johnson.
Thank you. And we have Jerry Brown.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jerry Brown. Many thanks to the Greater Hardin County Women's Network for hosting, and the Hardin County branch of the NAACP. I'm so glad that you invited us here tonight to talk to you. I usually have a quick stump speech. I let people know that I'm a graduate of North Hardin High School, that I attended HCEC and flunked out. Too many good-looking girls, what can I say? Once I flunked out, I was drafted and went to Vietnam. I got back after 13 and a half months and used my GI Bill to go to UK and get my degree from the College of Education in English. At that point, I was fortunate enough to make the dean's list because the Army gave me time to focus and really understand what I wanted to do. I used that degree to teach at Fort Knox high school English for 3 years, and then I'd always wanted to own a bookstore. I'd always wanted to work in a bookstore. And I started doing that in 1976. I did that for almost 40 years. And so I'm a business person. I've been in the military, I've been a teacher, I've studied insurance, and I've studied real estate. So I really bring a lot to the table. I appreciate you thinking of me on election day. Thank you.
Thank you. From this point, the candidates go over time. I will yell cut. Okay. The first question is for Councilwoman Owens. Describe Radcliff.
Describe Radcliff. Radcliff should be a destination, if for all things possible, and not just a pass-through. It should not be a second thought, an afterthought in anybody's mind. It is a great place to raise children. It is safe to operate in for your own well-being. The socioeconomic, and we're talking about where you live and what you make, is, I think, comparable to other places that are about our size, of 24,000. We have a low crime rate. I really think your money goes far. We truly support our troops. Again, I'm a 30-year soldier. I've been deployed twice. I've been shot at twice, and I've been in the minefield. I know how it is to be under stress. And I think this city helps to complement people who are trying to make it, whether they are on a fixed budget or they're now grandparents who or great-grandparents who are taking care of children. This is a place to be to where you can express yourself, no matter where you're coming from. You can serve, you can have your own religion, you can work in your yard, you can do nothing. You can do a lot of things. And so I believe Radcliff is exactly where it needs to be, but there's lots of opportunity for it to propel itself into a little bit better in economic development. Radcliff is a destination and not an afterthought. Thank you.
Okay, Councilwoman Mitchell.
Radcliff to me is home. It's a warm blanket. When I travel and come back, I'm always looking forward to coming back to Radcliff. It offers many things. The cultural diversity is one of the things that we offer. Saunders Springs. We have quite a few things in our community that make us stand out, which I said is the cultural diversity. Saunders Springs. We have a lot of small businesses here that really try to pour back into the community, and that is the things that I feel really make our community great. You're also in a community where you kind of feel like everybody knows your name, and even if you don't know that person, you've heard of that person, and I feel that's a great community to be a part of, and we're able to work together when we have the same mission of making this place a better place.
All right, thank you. Ms. Johnson?
Well, I think in addition to what the others have mentioned, I'll echo Ms. Mitchell's diversity. When I think about Radcliff, I think about how many different places people have come from to come here, all over the United States and beyond, as far as Germany and Korea. My family came up here from Texas. My dad was assigned to Fort Knox, and eventually all his adult children came up here after him. At first, it seemed like a temporary thing, but we all put down roots down up here, and so we made it home. And I felt really welcomed up here, and I want everybody in Radcliff who comes here for whatever reason to feel as welcome and included as I've been made.
Thank you. Councilman Brown?
Radcliff is opportunity. Anyone who lives here can find a goal for their lives. It's a good place for a family. It's a good place for a profession. It's a good place for a business. It's a good place to study. Radcliff is full of opportunities, and I think they keep developing all the time. Whatever you're willing to bring to the table, I think we have something to offer you. We have highways. We're not far from the Ohio River. We're not far from UPS. We're a central destination. We're a good place for people to get started. We're a good place for people to grow.
Thank you. And Councilman Thompson?
Well, one, I want to echo what all the other council members said, and then I want to pick up where Councilman Jerry Brown left off. He's correct. Radcliff has plenty of room for growth. We have an area that we've developed with full infrastructure. We have access to the river. We have access to the railroad. We have access to highways for tractor trailer trucks. So, bringing maybe companies here with good paying jobs, you think it would be easy, it's not, because we are a small community compared to other larger places, and a lot of big companies consider that. But a company, I think in Radcliff, a large company would do well here, because they would be able to get their products out a variety of different ways, and the infrastructure is already put in. We've done that years ago. And I think the people here, I have to agree with some of the other council members, the diversity and the kindness. I mean, I've lived here for a lot of years, and I've met some of the most kind people I've ever met in my life. And so it's a great place to raise kids. I raised mine too.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mitchell, what is the most important issue currently facing the city?
Okay, I need to pick one. So I feel like one of the most important things is maybe having a sustainable infrastructure to be able to bring other businesses in to help with jobs, to help with housing, and a variety of those things so that we can grow our city and provide, economic stability for people in our community.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson?
I think one of the biggest issues that faces us right now is really one of the biggest issues that faces Hardin County as a whole, and that's the growth of the county. You'll hear a lot about the Blue Oval SK plant, and there's a lot of debate about how much that will actually affect us, but the truth of the matter is Hardin County is growing and has been ever since I moved to Kentucky here 15 years ago. I can only imagine the changes that the people who've lived here longer than I have seen. And so I want to make sure that we're being proactive about that growth and not reactive, that we're anticipating what we need and not waiting until the last minute, but at the same time also not front-loading it and spending a bunch of money at the front and realizing, oh, we don't need this because we're not growing as much as we thought we would. So I think it's important we prioritize projects and how we spend our money so that we're spreading it out and that we're ready for what comes.
Councilman Brown, same question.
Thank you, sir. There are a lot of diverse issues. I'm going by the fact that I've been knocking on doors and talking to people for the last 2 months. I had a woman over at Stewart Manor who talked about a place for senior citizens, just to be able to talk and have activities and do things with other senior citizens. Terry, one of our most effective council members, one of the most intelligent people I've ever met, champions youth like you wouldn't believe. And she's brought in a proposal for a youth council, and she wants to see more programs for our youth. And I will join her in that because I believe in it just as much as she does. Everybody talks about jobs. I think we're going about it in the wrong way. We're waiting for somebody to bring something to us. We're waiting for the state or whatever. I don't have a whole lot of time, but if you look at Kentucky imports, we've got aerospace,
Cut.
yada yada.
Councilman Thompson?
Okay, the question was problems with the city, correct?
What's the most important issue facing the city?
Facing the city, okay, I would say, well, at one time, Radcliff was a throughway, and then we had a highway that brings a lot of the traffic around. So when companies come out and do a vehicle count, the count is lower because traffic is being rerouted. And that's a big problem, and since, you know, the count is lower, the companies are looking maybe for a higher count, so they go somewhere else. And I agree, Hardin County is growing, Elizabethtown is growing. Our problem, I think that slowed us down somewhat, was the traffic. That's the problem that we're facing, and we need to be able to fix that.
Thank you. Councilwoman Owens.
Well, as a member of the State Commission on Women of the Governor's Office, I sit on the Committee for Community Investment in United Way and some other clubs. And that same question comes up on different levels, whether it's the county, the city, and everything in between. And I think overall, all of those things fall upon the well-being of people in the city. And so the factors that affect the workforce, transportation, byways, infrastructure, whether it is your wages that you live on, whether we have a senior center or youth center, all those things tie into the quality of life. Because if one thing goes off, then everything doesn't work. So you'll be dissatisfied, you may be disenfranchised, and then your expectations will not be met no matter what we do and what our $18 million budget can do. And I've managed a $24 million budget as a true commander of the hospital called Island Army Community Hospital. And so it can't be one thing. They're all interconnected. They are all interlocked. You can pick anything and you have to work for it. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Johnson, what does the city need to do in order to attract more residents away from the southern end of the county?
I think a couple of the big things that we can do is we can work on diversifying our job offerings. That's something that's going to take time for sure, but especially as Fort Knox has changed and evolved over the years, we can't just hang all our stars on Fort Knox. I think the other thing that we can do is, especially with the study that the county and the state have been doing for our transportation, once we start getting back some of the results and recommendations for that, I would like to see the city of Radcliff chip in with the Hardin County and Vine Grove and E-Town and see what we can do about getting some transportation, public transportation here in the county.
Thank you. Councilman Brown?
Someone earlier spoke to this about Radcliff being a destination. And what I have found as a business owner for 40 years in Radcliff was the difficult time I had drawing people from the southern end of the county. I had people coming from Fort Knox. I had people coming from Vine Grove. I had people coming from Meade County and even Grayson County. I had very few people coming from Elizabethtown or Sonora or Upton. I never did quite figure out how to draw those people to Radcliff. But I think, as you said earlier, it needs to be a city of destination. We need the businesses here that will draw those people. We need to have something here that is so special that you have to come here to experience it. I never understood the psychology before. I always tried to figure it out, and I never ever could.
Thank you. Councilman Thompson?
I think to help grow the north end, of course, we need to build it up. A start was getting Redmond Plaza torn down, and then now trying to get investors in there, and COVID slowed that down a bit. We had something going. So I think if we can get, new houses in some areas, maybe nicer apartments built up in that area, we can get more people to move to the north end of Radcliff. But it would take building it up, and now that we have the area, we have Knox and Wilson Road, that area torn down. All we need is some investors to come in and put in either some really nice business or some really nice apartments to attract people to live in that area. And then maybe also the Wilson Road gate, keeping it open 24 hours a day.
Thank you. Councilwoman Owens?
I think overall, if people can see the pride that we have in our city, because we can buy a lot of things, and we may not even be able to sustain all those things at the same time, all those burdens going at the same time. But if we're not showing pride and interest in investment, and an investment can mean a whole lot of different things to a whole lot of different people. And we can have a whole bunch of shiny things and still not attract the right people, which is everybody, at the same time. They can come for Christmas, they can come for New Year's, and then we don't see them anymore. They can come and we get a new restaurant, it's the shiny thing for 2 weeks, 6 months, and then they revert back to what makes them comfortable. What we have to make sure and do it all the time is to show people that we are prideful where we live and not just bumping through because you ended up living here for circumstances. We should show as much pride as we can to let people know this is a great place to come to. You don't have to spend a whole bunch of money. You don't have to go far. You should be able to know your neighbor. You should feel comfortable in your dwelling. And you should be prideful when people say, what do you do when you come here? You don't have to run off to Louisville every single time. Come here. It is the destination. You have to make it one.
Councilwoman Mitchell?
I think some of the things that the city could possibly do is provide some incentives. We have a lot of people that are working from home now, and so providing incentives for them to come into the community, setting up things for our soldiers that are transitioning out of the military, having something like that. I would like to see the city begin to brand Radcliff for being known for something. And taking off from that, what she said with the community pride and, bringing businesses and things like that. I feel like we need to get people to say things differently about Radcliff, and we're all saying the same thing. Our events that we have, tourism, those type of things will be things that will draw people to our community, and we talk about the positive. In the ice cream world, I have that saying where if you are so busy counting someone else's sprinkles, your ice cream's gonna melt. So we're so busy looking at what all these other communities are doing and not looking at what makes Radcliff unique, we're gonna miss out on an opportunity. Let's just build up what we're known for. And we have to figure that out, apparently. We, as a city, we've got to come together and do that.
Thank you. Councilman Brown, with the expected growth in Hardin County, what are some opportunities for growth in Radcliff?
Opportunities for growth in Radcliff are practically unlimited, with the exception of the fact that we don't have as much space as Elizabethtown and other areas. As I was going to say earlier, if you look at Kentucky exports, we're exporting $2.5 billion worth of aerospace products every year. Close behind is pharmaceutical. I think we need to find things in those areas where we can use our unique advantages. We've got a highway directed to the UPS hub. We have another highway that goes not far from the Ohio River. I think, as some of our speakers have said earlier, we need to be proactive. Instead of waiting for somebody to knock on our door, we need to go up Riverport Road, Cane Run Road, and start knocking on some of those doors where those companies are located. Find out the presidents of those companies. Find out the people in charge. Find out who we need to talk to. And go to those people before somebody else has a chance. There are so many great areas in Kentucky to settle, but Radcliff is unique. We are centered. We've got everything that anybody could ask for. We're waiting.
Thank you. Councilman Thompson?
As I said earlier, we do have the infrastructure, especially around 313. We put the infrastructure in. That area is mainly, it has a big advantage for tractor trailer trucking, so large corporations could move in that area. We need to maybe provide more incentives. There is room to grow, but we just have to figure out what area we're going to specialize in. And I kind of think we have a great mayor, and he's working hard at trying to move other companies in here to help grow this community here, this community in particular. And I think he needs some additional help in that area. And like I said before, a lot of companies, they will do a vehicle count, and that hurts us a little bit there. So we need to figure out how to fix that vehicle count. Or maybe the rerouting look better. We can get more companies off of 313 because a lot of that traffic is going that way. And maybe we can get them to count that area too. We have a better chance of bringing in some larger companies for growth.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Owens?
You've all said it, but here's something that I want people to understand. Growth and displacement may go together. That's the hardest thing. And so we may have to, when we try to grow, we may end up moving some things. We've got some blighted properties, you know it and I know it. And they deface our value of what the city can possibly do, has the potential to do. We've got realtors sitting here, you know, like I know. And so you can only hold those properties up so long to where they stop being attractive. And so when you're talking about, you know, byway or interstate already going around the city, and businesses are looking for 5 things when they come here. All businesses do. They look for vehicle count on the main roads, 10, 20, 30, 40,000 cars a day. They want 5 minutes from the nearest airport, international airport, to get their things out. Can they load and unload their large rigs from the rear versus from the front like Aldi's has to deal with all the time? They want to know if the workforce is here. Do they have to hire them or someone else has to go out and get them? And then what are the amenities? What are their workers going to do when they get off work? We don't face those things.
Cut.
We won't be able to do it.
Councilwoman Mitchell?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. With the expected growth in Hardin County, what are some opportunities for growth in Radcliff?
I'm definitely going to echo my colleagues here in that I feel businesses, once again, is going to be the draw. Tourism is going to be the draw. What makes us different will be the draw in our community. And I also would like to see some very influential entities coming together, our county and our city, along with the Business Alliance. You've got churches that are in the know of things that are going on in our community. We really need to have a committee of people that are all working together to help make it be more successful.
All right, thank you. Ms. Johnson?
I think the other candidates have already answered a lot of what my answer would be, so I'll kind of echo one of my past things that I brought up, which was with Hardin County as a whole growing so much, one thing that we can take advantage of, and I know the council has worked toward this before, with the current transit study going, if the we partner with the county and with the other cities here, I would really like to see us get some public transit and some public transportation going. These businesses that are coming into E-Town, we can benefit from those as well if we can get the people who live up here down there and back again. Not everybody has a car, not everybody can afford to keep that up, but if they can afford the housing up here, I think that would do a lot, especially if we're providing other services and recreation and things like that up here. I think that we could really benefit from that.
Thank you. Councilman Thompson, even though we've discussed this, all of you have touched on this, we want a little more detail. What are your ideas for economic development to accommodate an expected growing populace?
Okay, here's an idea that I had, and I was working with a couple of people before COVID on this, but they've since moved on. One idea is Sandra Spring, is there are people that ride bicycles across the United States. And we were looking at maybe Sandra Spring being an area destination where we would hold sort of like a bicycling rally. I'm not quite sure the exact name that you would want to give something like that. But I think that would bring a lot of people in for hotels and restaurants and stuff like that, which would grow the community and things like that. E-Town at one time had motorcycle rally going. I came up with that idea a few years, being a motorcyclist and have been to many rallies. I came up with that idea years ago, but it was kind of shot down because nobody thought we had an area that was suited. And I don't really think we do here either. We don't have an area like E-Town, where they have the big circle area, which is great for a rally, and I don't know why they gave that up. But maybe if we can come up with maybe some sort of festivals. We have the festival now with Bourbon Trail and stuff like that, maybe come up with some more.
Thank you. Councilwoman Owens.
Yes, we have the Mill Pond area. Lots of people come to look at it on 313, the industrial park, and we have 1 or 2 small businesses there. Not enough to employ a lot of people for us to make a whole lot of revenue out of it. But does it have potential to turn into a stadium? Does it have potential to turn into an outdoor, indoor rec? We have not really looked at that yet, and it's on the main byway. We're talking 313, central enough for everybody to get in and out of, in the southern and northern, and even east and west, depending on what it is. But we have not developed it yet, so that is what I want to look at.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mitchell.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. You know, we've discussed this various times already. What are your ideas for economic development to accommodate an expected growing populace?
I would like to see possibly, we don't really have an economic development department per se. It would be good if we could have a task force that is designated for that, that's their job, to go out and try to find businesses to bring in based off what they're looking for and trying to marry that up. We can do those type of things. I feel, once again, spotlighting Radcliff by all our different festivals and things that we do, spotlighting Saunders Springs. Like she said, we do have the Mill Pond there for development. So there's so much potential that is here. I would like to see us be able to get a group of people that could focus on that and bringing more in to bring in more funds.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson?
In addition to some of the things that the other candidates have already kind of brought up, I think one of our opportunities is kind of something that the city has already been doing. With several projects, one of them being the Red Mark Plaza would probably be a good example, where we've taken a direct stake and getting this, we did the demolition ourselves to try and incentivize people coming in. I would like to see us continue to do that. Now, we have to be careful with this. We don't have an unlimited amount of funds that we can just throw at problems. So we have to be smart about how and where we use this. As part of that, I would also like to see some of the projects that we buy into help local businesses specifically. Because if we're only going up to bat for outside investors, then all this money coming into Radcliff is going to flow right back out. And how does that help us?
All right, thank you. Councilman Brown?
If I may, I'd like to take this in a different direction. Over the last 3 to 4 years, county government has taken a couple of things away from us. We were fortunate enough to get one of those offices back, but we did lose our library. And we also lost the driver's whatever. One of the things that occurred to me was Radcliff is a town of about 25,000. Vine Grove is a town of 10,000. Ronnieville, 5,000. Fort Knox, another 10,000. Greater Northern Hardin County has at least 50,000 people. I think at some point we need to look at becoming our own county, North Hardin County. Some of the counties in Kentucky are fewer than 2,000 people. They're small counties. We've got 50,000 people here in Northern Hardin County. All the services that we should be getting, we've got to travel a long distance. We have to fight a horde of people. We need it here. We need to start at least thinking about that and discussing it.
Thank you. Councilwoman Owens, how can services for youth be improved, and what are some ideas you would recommend?
I think improvement starts at home. Sometimes I believe parents, because they're overwhelmed, grandparents are overwhelmed, they want to bring the kids to the thing. and then leave the kids and then come back. And it doesn't work that way. I tell people, I don't have any kids in the extracurricular activities, but they're all my kids, so I write more of the checks and normally there. As a matter of fact, I'll be in Meadowview on Monday supporting their effort to get their basketball team up and running, that the school can only pay half for it. So I'll pay the other half. They're all my kids. But in order to make sure we have a strong youth presence, it does take family, and when the family can't do it, then yes, hopefully we can have some type of system to help to fill that void, whether it's paying for registration fees or trying to get uniforms. Every organization here has a youth program. Every church, every nonprofit, every part-time, every full-time, they have duplicated and triplicated every single youth activity, from Boy Scout to Girl Scout, derby fishing, to everything in between the vacation Bible school. I think we have it. What we don't have is a focus for it.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mitchell?
Things for our youth that I am currently working on is I started a couple of years back is having a job fair for teenagers 14 and up. Last year I opened it up to those kids that are homeschooled and with special needs for those first hour. This year, going into the third year, I'm going to have a program. It's going to be a teen expo. So there's a lot of kids that maybe are not involved in sports, maybe because they are not good at it, or in music and things like that. So with this expo that I'm going to have, we're going to offer opportunities for kids to get involved in mentorship, job shadowing, being able to volunteer in their community. I feel that brings pride for their community once they are involved in it. And I would like to see those type of things flourishing. Like she said, we already have a lot of things that are here. It would be great to bring everything together and kind of move forward together. Parents are also not receiving a lot of the information of what we do offer in our community. So we need to have a platform to be able to do that as well.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson?
I think to give this question some context, my campaign and I have knocked about 2,300 doors so far here in Radcliff, and in the hundreds and hundreds of conversations we've had, the number one issue I hear at doors is there's not enough for the young people to do here in Radcliff. And so it's great that we're doing these events and that we're giving shout outs and stuff at city council meetings, and we need to keep doing that for sure. But I think we do need to start to step it up a notch because we are getting this much feedback on this one single issue. One thing that the city might actually be able to look at is maybe we have a community coordinator position that we open. Somebody who can route these different people that they've mentioned, different people in different programs and different organizations, and help them grow and help them organize and help create awareness, and so that people realize the different opportunities that they do have here at Radcliff.
Thank you.
Repeat the question, please.
Councilman Brown, what are your ideas how can services for youth be improved, and what are some ideas you would recommend?
Just like Serenity, it has been one of the most discussed and most talked about issues as I've knocked on doors and talked with individuals. Typically, I don't see a lot of young people when I knock on doors. It's the mother or father or both who come to the door. But occasionally I'll get a young person who will chime in, and they will invariably say, I wish there was more to do. If they're not involved in some of the activities, the soccer, youth baseball, football, something of that nature, there doesn't seem to be anything. I know we've had discussions with a Boys and Girls Club. We've had discussions with other entities who are looking to locate in Radcliff. It's just one of those things that we haven't, at least for me, it's still a difficult area, and we're still exploring, I think.
Thank you. Councilman Thompson?
Okay. I have 5 grandkids. Every single one of them were involved in something. I have one that wrestles. I have another one that runs long distance track. I have 3 that does soccer and also does martial arts. And they're representing the U.S. Second year. First time in Canada, this month, as a matter of fact, in Greece. there are activities out there. There's football. I have a nephew that plays football. There's baseball. There's all kinds of sports. We did try to have a drop-off type community center. It didn't work. We had kids in there that got dropped off. They were hungry. The parents often failed to pick them up. It was costly. And right now, if you think about it, we have a great mayor, but he's $20,000 underpaid. So, you know, our budget is very tight. So it's hard to find money for a recreational center when we can't even pay the mayor a fair salary. But the drop-off didn't work as well as we thought it would. But there are plenty of activities. Not in my backyard, but right next to my backyard. I watch kids practice soccer and football every evening. So there's a lot of opportunity out there for kids. Now, one of the things I don't see, and maybe I'm not looking in the right places, is like speech and debate. I know there's cheerleading out there, I just don't see much of it, but maybe chess competitions or something like that for kids that don't do sports. And so that's what I would recommend.
Thank you. Councilwoman Owens. Thank you very much for starting that. And this is, as all of you have mentioned, this is one of the top topics and has been a top topic for at least 20 years. So, you know, at some point, we definitely want city council, even though we know that you're looking at it, we need some results, because all of you have said various things that can actually help us. It's just a matter, I guess, of execution and maybe even getting us, the citizens, to participate to help you on this. So that's just a word of advice, an observation for those of you who will be back on the city council or be on the city council. So thank you very much for that great discussion. Ms. Mitchell, what space does the city have for expansion, and how would you like to see it being used?
What space do we have for expansion in reference to housing or?
Anything.
Okay, so we do have some vacant properties here in our community. We have the furniture building, we have the movie theater, that we could possibly do some things there. There is some land, not a lot of land, but there is some land that we have. We have looked at Mill Pond for companies to come in with possible incentives, different things like that. So there is definitely room for expansion. I would definitely, you know, I would like to see something for our youth facility, something more, not like the drop-off service. There has to be some accountability for those parents as well, or grandparents, things like that. We definitely need to see that. I feel like those type of programs can then also go into this facility where we do have speech and debate, where we've talked about a youth council, which I would like to see, entrepreneurship for young people, just getting them involved in our community to take community pride and want to stay in this community.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson?
I think one area is, like Councilwoman Mitchell mentioned, we have a lot of vacant properties, and I think it's going to be most beneficial to look at what we can do there. Again, you have to be careful with how much money you're throwing at that problem. You have to be very strategic with how you're doing it. But as we saw with Redmar and getting that kick-started, if we can get some of these things going, be smart about where we put them, and then get some really good stuff in there. We saw that with the old bank location at the corner of Lincoln Trail and 31W. I'd like to see some more development like that, stuff like the Ansar Plaza and things like that. I think that's our best opportunity at this moment.
Councilman Brown?
Tough question, sir. Council really doesn't address things like that. That's pretty much on the mayor. We do have some great property available, and what I would like to see are as many jobs as possible. But you were talking about vacant properties. That depends on the landlord. Does the landlord decide to rent to somebody? It depends on who comes to that landlord and says, I have a business. Well, do you have the money to make that business work? Do you have enough to keep it, to sustain it once you get it opened? Will there be enough traffic? Have you chosen a good location? There are so many questions, and we have very little say-so in that. That's the mayor and the city, the administration. So we can encourage that, we can give incentives, but there's very little we can do.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Thompson?
I kind of agree with what everybody else said, but I also would like to add, let's say Mill Pine area, we've been talking about trying to get good companies there for good paying jobs. That's true. We have trouble with the vehicle count to bring in other businesses, that's true. But then there are other ideas that we can do with Mill Pine, such as large concerts. Louisville doesn't, and they don't have the infrastructure built in as Mill Pine. We spent over $1 million on infrastructure for Mill Pine. So maybe concerts, festivals, they have to be well advertised to get the people here. We don't so much have to have bus transportation back and forth, because the people that go to the places in Louisville, like I'm one of them, they don't have, I don't use the bus to get there. I drive to some of the festivals, some of the concerts and stuff like that. And I think if we can get someone that their main job is to organize something like that and get with the people that throw the concerts in Louisville to maybe throw a few of them this way and see what happens, we could develop that way.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Owens?
If I had my druthers, I would like to have a citizens council so they will understand what we're trying to do versus what they expect us to do, because they may not know what our jurisdiction is, our limitations are, where the resources coming from. Everybody looks left and right and says, I want that, I want that. But they don't know that Mr. Terry owns that and he's not giving it up. And so we make, you know.
Right price,
And so when you talk about the bank, for that bank, it took us hell and high water to get that bank under control, PNC Bank, in order to get what's in there now. That wasn't an overnighter. Everybody may think it was, but it was not. And it cost the city a little bit of money. We used some of your money to make that property work. And so, but I think if we had a citizens council, diverse group, now we can talk about what we really can do versus what you think we should do, because it's something that you want, and when you don't realize that, when you think your expectations are met, and then you see us as being ineffective, and we keep hitting our head against the wall. And so if I get that chance to do that, on top of the youth council, the citizen council should be interested.
Thank you. Well, Ms. Johnson, I know this is your first forum, and you get probably the hardest question to start off with. This end of the county experienced its greatest census and economic growth from the late 1970s until BRAC. It has partially recovered. What ideas do you have for a revival?
Repeat the first part of that question again.
This end of the county experienced its greatest census and economic growth from the late 1970s until BRAC. And it has partially recovered.
Yeah, I know my understanding is at one time Radcliff was actually a little bit larger than E-Town, and that's changed over the years. I do think, to kind of echo something I said earlier, I think we need to diversify our industries and our businesses here in town. We can't just hang all our stars and all our hopes on Fort Knox. Fort Knox is a great resource. It's a great place to partner with, and it's a great source of jobs. And especially with our large veteran population, it's going to continue to be a very important part of our community. But if we are only relying on that and nothing else, if it leaves one day, what are we left with? So we need to make sure, growing up in Texas, of course, I remember learning when I was young about when the oil industry, a lot of that left Texas and just devastated it. I don't want to see that for Radcliff.
Thank you. Councilman Brown.
As I said before, I began my business, the bookstore, in 1976, when probably Fort Knox was at its height, pretty close to it. Prior to that, I had worked at Fort Knox, sold newspapers from barrack to barrack, and sold ice cream with a three-wheeled ice cream cart and a bell that I rang. So I remember the heyday, and I remember when so much of Fort Knox pulled up and left. And Radcliff has been reeling, I want to say pretty much ever since, because we've caught our breath and we've started going in different directions. And it's been hard, it's been difficult trying to find our identity again. It was so closely tied to Fort Knox. As I knock on doors nowadays, still military families, disabled veterans, people who work for civil service, we're still, Radcliff and Fort Knox are still just like this. So I think with Mitch McConnell probably stepping down as in the Senate, we need to work with our politicians in Washington to secure stronger folks coming to Fort Knox. We have got to do something now. Excuse me.
Thank you. Councilman Thompson?
And you're mainly concerned in the north end, right? Of Radcliff. Okay. I kind of think, when we already discussed the traffic count, but I also think on the same roads that the traffic has been changed, rerouted to, if we can look up property there and develop that area with businesses, different kinds, and maybe other places to live, we can build up the north end that way. We already know Redmore Plaza is torn down, and we already think that, we have some investors on the hook right now that may invest in Redmore Plaza area. So that's one end. But maybe if we follow those roads that were rerouted and try to get land there and develop that area as quickly as we can and as best we can, kind of smartly, then we can develop the north end better. Just bring more businesses there, which would bring more houses and apartments and those type of things.
Thank you. Councilwoman Owens?
When the base realignment closure happened in 2010, we lost 7,500 personnel. In exchange, we have 21 units here. In between the 2010 BRAC and what we have now, I was just going over my list, 6 states were affected. It wasn't just us. Fort Bliss, Texas, Fort Monroe, Virginia, Fort Jackson, South Carolina, Fort Polk, Louisiana, Fort Riley, Kansas, Fort Worth, California. They all experienced what we consider as a drawdown, less than 500,000. Air Force and Navy did the same thing. And so what we have here in Radcliff, like a lot of cities right outside of a fort, they're built to take an economic hit, a slight hit from 0 to 14 miles, 0 to 16 miles. I think we have a romanticism also about how we looked in the heyday. We looked well, but did it give us anything in the long term when the BRAC happened? Or did it fueled small businesses, but did it create long-term, long businesses? And then were those long businesses, box stores, Kmart went out of the way, Montgomery Moore's, Sears, had nothing to do with us. But I think we just have a romanticism what we thought we were versus what we are now, and we've got to get smart at what we are now.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mitchell?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. This end of the county experienced its greatest census and economic growth from the late 1970s until BRAC. It has partially recovered. What ideas do you have for a revival?
Well, pretty much what I've been saying. We definitely need to bring in businesses and have incentives for them. I think we should have something for it because, this community is made up of a lot of military. And so we have a lot that will be transitioning out. We have those that are retired. So once again, can we provide some type of incentives to get them to stay here? As well as those that are now, we're in a time now where a lot of people are working from home. They're at home, let's bring them here to our community, provide some incentives as well. I'd like to see big companies and small companies. Of course, I'm going to support small businesses, but those type of things is what we would need to do. It's not going to be quick, but we can get it done.
Thank you. Councilman Bryant, the city was once the center of activities for the Fort Knox community, as you mentioned earlier. what can you recommend to encourage more business opportunities involving military-affiliated personnel?
Could you repeat that question again? I know it's not my turn to answer it, but I want to make sure I understand what you're asking.
The question is, the city was once the center of activities for the Fort Knox community. What can you recommend to encourage more business opportunities involving military-affiliated personnel?
When I owned my business in Radcliff, I realized that my main focus, my main customer, were the people coming from Fort Knox. Consequently, I tailored my bookstore to conform to what I thought that those people coming in, the military, would want. And I had this huge selection of military books. And I did it chronologically, back from Greek and Roman, medieval, war between the Roses, the English wars and all that stuff, from World War I to World War II, to Vietnam, to Iran and Iraq, and the subsequent wars. So I had a tremendous amount of material. I knew the customers coming in. The Army School librarian would come in frequently and buy anything new that they could use. I had customers who were, would always purchase things for the Korean War. We have to find the things that appeal to our customers, and that's how you survive. So I had people, one more detail. Okay.
Thank you. Councilman Thompson?
I think with Fort Knox, the majority of the people there, soldier-wise, are young people. So I think maybe to bring them out into the community and have spend a little money, we should come up with ideas. Like some of the ideas I had, and I thought about going out and requesting, it's just finding a location, is bringing in different types of dance besides line dancing. I mean, I used to go all the way on the other side of Louisville to do West Coast Swing. So we had Wednesday was West Coast Swing night, and you would go there and you would just go up to people and ask them to dance. You know, prior to that, they would offer some steps for not much money, but they would offer some steps. And then during the dance, you got to practice those steps, and then whatever else steps that you understood. So that's one idea, but there's other things, some sort of social gathering for younger soldiers on Fort Knox to entice them to come off post. And something that's not going to get them in trouble, like, you know, getting drunk in bars and stuff like that. You know, these are dances, they offer water, and that was it.
Thank you. Councilwoman Owens?
It's really a strong partnership with the garrison commanders, Colonel Ricky right now. When I attend polls as my former self, I get to hear the same kind of questions. How do we draw the community inside of Knox? And so you have inside of Knox, morale and welfare and recreation. You have better opportunities for single soldiers. You have the Fort Knox Spouses Club. You have all of the mirror to what we have outside that fence. But if we don't have a relationship, a strong one, and it has to be consistent, you'll have an us against them. They'll do their activities inside, we do our activities outside, and the ones who will attend their events will attend their events, but it's not the larger people. We also can't make victims or, you know, prey on our young soldiers or our older soldiers and expect them to run and to keep us afloat. It really is a give or take, and I think starting and ending with the garrison commander, because he's the mayor of Fort Knox, that's how we'll know what's going on. We'll know the beat of that society. We can't guess for them or work on the things that we used to do as veterans. You have to know what's going on now, and we have 21 units there. And we have one that's permanently deployed to Afghanistan, where I've been. And so you have to know the beat of that place, but not think that you got to be there end all.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mitchell?
I feel partnering, like very similar to what Ms. Terry Owens said, partnering with the Garrison Commander and the City of Radcliff, Business Alliance, those different organizations there, and telling them, you know, what the need is and trying to fulfill those needs. even, once again, I'm back to businesses, but if we could have the city wouldn't do this, but we would go to businesses and partner with them or have some type of program where they have space open and available for our soldiers to be able to come in, to be employed or to come in and do various organizations. The Gathering Bakery is one of those that is really excellent at providing opportunity for our soldiers to come in and do activities.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson?
I think in addition to making sure that we're engaging veterans and service members and working with Fort Knox directly and with the garrison commander, things like that, I think some of the things that we can really do are some of the things that we're already looking at doing for other reasons. Economic development here in the city. If you build it, they will come kind of thing. The services and recreation, dining, shopping, these things aren't just for the people who live here, they're also for the people who come here. And especially, I know when my dad was still, before he retired, when he was in the service and he served on Fort Knox full-time reserve, he would get off on his lunch, and a lot of times he would come off base and go to one of the local offerings here in town. And even still, you'll see a lot of the local restaurants here in town they service a very large lunch crowd because they're geared toward that. And so I think the things that we're building up here in town for other reasons, I think they'll actually benefit beyond that and help the people on Knox for as well, whether they live here or not.
Thank you. Final question. Councilman Thompson, describe how you would work with the other candidates and mayor to improve Radcliff if you are reelected.
It's sort of like what I've been doing. We get together, we have discussions, we come to an agreement that everybody agrees on, and we work together as a team to accomplish it. There's no one person that's running everything. That includes even the mayor. It's all a team. So as a team player, we would, just like I said, we would get together, we would all come to an agreement, everybody has their input, and when we all agree, then we'll work together as a team to make whatever that agreement is to happen. And so I think that's the whole thing right there. There's nothing else to say, it would be a team player.
Okay. Councilwoman Owens?
Since we're responsible for doing three things, which is to formulate a budget every year, we appoint people to the boards that we have, and we make ordinances, which is our laws when we need to either amend them or come up with new ones or get rid of the old ones that don't work. But we all do that as 6 people sitting on the dais. Non-voting member is the mayor, Mr. Pike, who is our attorney, and Ms. Russo, who's our executive assistant. Neither one of us has any more weight than the other. The only weight that we have is a quorum, which is 2/3 of the total people that sit on our dais of the 6 of us. Nothing can happen without us working together, even when we disagree. We don't disrespect. We work together to do and represent the best interests of our city. That's what we do, and that's what I want us to do. And if I get a second chance, or if I get a third chance, I'll continue to do that. Thank you.
Councilwoman Mitchell?
I'm going to echo the same thing. We do work well together. We can voice our opinions or rather facts as to why maybe we don't agree with something, bring other things to the table. I feel like I'm the little sister of the group because I'm always asking questions, calling, texting, and wanting to know certain things, and they've always obliged me in that. So I appreciate that. But they understand that I want to do what's best for Radcliff, and they've been there for me in that aspect. Of course, there may be times we don't agree, but the mission of making Radcliff great and a better place will always stand for us, I believe. So I'll be able to work very well with them.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson?
Well, as the only candidate here today that is not already on the council, I know that I have the most to learn, and I want to make sure that I'm a sponge to take in as much as I can. And I do believe in being an effective leader. I believe that there's times that you don't compromise on things, but you've got to compromise on some things. You've got to work together with people. You've got to understand where other people are coming from. And so I don't want to be on the council to be a troublemaker. I want to make sure that we are an effective council and that we are working together, even if we don't always agree eye to eye on every single issue. to make this city the best it can possibly be.
Thank you. Councilman Brown.
My colleagues have spoken very well, very effectively, so I don't have a whole lot to add, except that I do bring a lot of experience. I'm 77. I've done so many things and studied political science, studied insurance, studied real estate, studied business. And I've also been, for lack of a better word, I've been fooled a few times. So when I come to a meeting and I'm presented information, I don't take it at face value. I have learned to do due diligence. We have an encyclopedia practically at our fingertips now. So if somebody presents information and says this is the way it is, I can go to my own source and say, okay, I agree with that, or maybe it's not quite right. I want to make sure we get the best prices for the products that we're going to buy. I want to make sure that the people who work for the city treat each other, treat our citizens courteously and with respect. I prefer that we do things in a timely manner. If somebody calls City Hall and asks for something, that we get back in touch with them right away. So, as somebody with a lot of experience, I want the best for the city and the best for our citizens.
Thank you. So we've asked the core of our questions. Thank you very much to all the candidates for answering and for following the rules up to this point. And as we go into this last session, we hope that you will continue to follow the rules, as we will give you 2 minutes to close. And we will start with Councilwoman Owens.
I knew you was going to do that. I felt it in my spirit who was going to do that. Being able to serve on the council is just the greatest thing. After being in the Army 30 years, having a dad that's a NCO with a GED as a Marine, my mom's an Army nurse. They are the closest divorced individuals I know. I have lived through food stamps, Section 8, Red Line District, public education, integration, busing. I've been in combat, I've been enlisted, and I've been here. I've left my husband and daughter here twice while I went off to Afghanistan, when I was out in San Antonio, and I go back and forth in the airport to get back and forth here. And I knew when they were thriving, this was the place to be versus going home to Newport News, Virginia, which is where I'm from, or even going overseas because we have passports. This was the place that I was going to be in 2017. I would love to continue serving it in whatever capacity it is, whether it's city council or any other organization I'm on now. We all want to serve and to do, and only 6 of us can do it, and you are in charge of voting for us. Thank you in advance for your support.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mitchell?
Yes, I'm up for re-election. I'm number 4 on the ballot. Anyone that knows me knows that I love Radcliff. When I think of Radcliff and being able to represent Radcliff as an ambassador, I look at me and say, I am Radcliff. You are Radcliff. You are Radcliff. We all are Radcliff, and we need to be in a place where we're very proud to live in. My children are all slowly coming back into this community because they're seeing the potential for growth, and I'm very excited about that for the rest of us. I'm definitely a person that knows how to overcome. I was raised in a house, there was a total of 10 of us, and I was the youngest and had 7 brothers that always told me I couldn't do things, but I definitely showed them that I could. So I am also a person that can take very little and grow it. I just believe that I'm blessed with a gift to be able to be productive in whatever I do. Taking a business with starting with only $800 and growing that business over time. And so you will not be at a loss when you bring me back onto the council. I would definitely serve you 100%. I will work hard for what we need to have in our community. And I may even have to stand off to the side and do it with no support or with support, but I'm going to do what I need to do in order to make Radcliff a better place. And I would love to see my name back on the list as a council person for Radcliff, And if you do that, you'll have one of the best ambassadors you can possibly have in your community. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson?
Well, as a proud resident of Radcliff, I want to see our city and our community be the best that they can possibly be. And I know that some of the things that myself and the other candidates up here have talked about are difficult things. They're hard and they take effort and they take work, but I believe that Radcliff is worth that effort and worth that work. And so I want to make sure that we're taking steps to move closer to these goals. And so that the next time we have this forum, we're a little bit closer to where we want to be. And we can look back and say, yes, we accomplished this and this and this. We still need to work on this, but we've come so far. Let's keep going. And I want to echo what everybody else has said is Radcliff is not just a thoroughfare, not just a place that you drive through on 31W to get to where you're going. It's a destination in its own right, and it's a place that we call home. So, now that you've heard a little bit from all of us and you know a little bit about where we stand and what our feelings are on some of these issues, I hope that you will consider using one of your 6 votes for City Council for me, Serenity Johnson, number 6 on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Brown?
Let me begin with a question, please. How many of you have been to Churchill Downs? How many of you have been to Churchill Downs? And naturally you go to place a bet on a horse. And as you watch those horses parade around the track, you pick one out. Pick one out that looks fast. Pick one out that looks like it's in a good mood this particular day, that it rested well the previous evening, that it's been well fed, and had a nice trip to the bathroom before it gets started. We're the same. We're horses in a race, people in a race. And I ask you to look at this old gray whatever, not quite as fast as he used to be, but still brings a lot to this race. A lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, a lot of patience. I have the ability to say no when I hear something that I don't like. I have the ability to look at a proposition and say that's not a good idea for our city. We were all willing to work together and get along and try to bring the best product to you, the best city that we possibly can. So I appreciate you thinking of me on election day. I'm down on the ballot at number 9, Jerry Brown. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilman Thompson?
Okay, so for those that don't know me or don't know anything about me, my name is Kim Thompson. I'm the only Kim on the ballot. That's what I always say. A little background, I spent 20 years, 11 months in the military, and then I spent 18 and a half years working for the Department of Defense. I'm now retired, so I have plenty of time to work for the city. But in the meantime, throughout all of that, I still managed to do 2 years on the Code Enforcement Board, 10 years on the Planning and Zoning Board, and now at the end of this year, it'll be 10 years for City Council. I am definitely a member of this community. I live here permanently with a house here, and I live in the same house since September 98. Before that, back and forth, Fort Knox would send me back and forth here and there. I would go somewhere, I'd come back here. This was home. This is a great place to raise your kids. It was a great place to raise my kids. I would like to see Radcliff to be a place where kids doesn't have to move away for a career. So that's why I would like to help to continue to grow Radcliff, so that when younger people than me have kids and those kids grow up, they can find a really high-paying job here in this area and don't have to leave mom and dad, to go states away. I actually love this community. I know a lot of people in this community. I do a lot of help in the community. I have really great neighbors. I would just love to have you vote again to continue to serve. I would like to serve until I have nothing else to offer. But right now, I think I still do. So I humbly ask for your vote. and hopefully I will get your support in the election.
All right, thank you.
Beautiful. I appreciate that.
Sir, would it be appropriate to ask if any members of the audience would like to ask us a question?
Well, we're not set for
No?
that.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right.
But I do want to thank you, and I think it would be appropriate at this time for us to go ahead and give our candidates a round of applause. Once again, I'm Lacey Rice Jr., of the Greater Hardin County Women's Network. I serve as your moderator this evening, and just proud of all these candidates who did decide to come and talk to you today. And I hope that you will take everything they said in consideration when you go to vote. The most important thing is for you to go and vote. We do not want you to sit at home, just let everything ride. This is a very important election, and besides the presidential and the U.S. representative elections, we have local elections that will determine how things go in your community. So please, go and vote. One of the reasons I asked one of the questions was because before Radcliff was, by percentage, the fastest growing town in America at one time. We had bustling businesses. We had a myriad of major retail, to include Kroger and Kmart. And now we don't have those anymore. So Winn-Dixie. so we had a bustling economy. Unfortunately, Bragg affected us negatively because of some of these candidates mentioned. We were too tied in with Fort Knox, and because we were so tied in with Fort Knox, when the 194 left, it practically killed us. So these council people and candidates are here to reverse everything that happened in the past to make things better. So far, we have seen a lot of progress. And so, once again, I encourage you to vote so that they can work on the problems that we have, because we as citizens and individuals cannot work on these problems ourselves. They represent us. So thank you once again, all of you candidates. Good luck. I hate to use the word luck, but good luck.